I'm Tabitha Rock.
And I'm Sam Davenport.
Born and bred in Melbourne, we live and breathe property, and we know the Melbourne market like the back of our hand. We've both been buying and selling real estate in Metro Melbourne for over 2 decades combined, and we've learned a few lessons along the way.
Okay, we have a new guest in the hot seat, Lachlan Dettmer from MYSA Architecture. Is that the business name?
Architecture and interiors, yeah.
Architecture and interiors, and we'll get into why that second word is very key in your business. But welcome to the Property Culture Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Very exciting.
Yeah.
We are so happy to have you here.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to chat with you guys today.
We've known you for several years. You've worked with some of our clients before, so we're really excited to get into what you do, how you do it, who your fave clients are. I know you're not meant to have favourites, but I know we all do.
We always do.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got a favourite child.
100%. So
For sure.
Talk to us. Where does MYSA come from? What's your background? Did you study architecture at uni? What's the go?
Yeah, so I think I kind of came to architecture through a little bit of a roundabout way. In high school, I knew that I liked the creative stuff, but then with a little bit of pragmatic elements to it as well. So I started off, I did a building design course at RMIT, and then a couple of months into that kind of realised that I absolutely loved it. And then there was kind of a transition point from that into architecture, which I did, and then kind of did my undergrad and then my master's, and kind of once I was sucked in, and I was really lucky, I think, yeah.
I love that. So would you say that you loved rulers at school?
Well, yeah.
That was such a serious question.
Like a little bit, actually. Like VisCom was by far my favourite subject.
Totally.
And that was all, I remember doing like the 3-point drawings with like the rulers and protractors.
Yes.
And like, it's the best.
That's the best thing I've ever seen.
No way. I actually, you know how you do those internships during school, did it at an architecture firm, and I was like, hell to the no. I was like, straight lines, I'll go cross-eyed.
Do you still use the same style desk at your office? No, everything's on the computer, obviously.
No, yeah,
so do you have those anymore?
I've got one at home, which I inherited from my grandpa, who was a mechanical engineer. So when I was studying and like doing the courses, there was a lot of hand-drawn components, and I had like almost a better setup at home than was available at school. Yeah,
yeah, because they were built for it.
Yeah, it was incredible. My parents hated it because it took up half the living room.
So much space, they're huge. Have you seen those pictures from back? You know, in architecture offices where they have these desks side by side all the way through the room, and obviously the paper, you know, the blueprints were massive. Enormous. But I just love that.
There's some where they've almost got like trolley systems that like hover over so they can like get to the middle of these giant pages and draw details on them.
Yes, of course.
Back in like the 60s and stuff.
Back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the OG stuff.
Crazy.
Oh my God. Well, we've really diverted, but tell us, MYSA, how did it start? How long have you been going? After your master's, what was next?
So MYSA is it's a Swedish word that essentially like translates into like feeling comfortable or content. So it's like having a glass of wine in front of a fire on a cold day. Like that kind of
Give us
ethos.
another example.
Ooh, going for a walk in the sun. Like
Yes.
like just like
with a nice cool breeze.
Yes, yeah. Like,
Not too cold.
Like
just a gentle whisper.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like cozying up in a rug, like reading a nice book, something like that. So it's kind of like the ethos behind it. But I started it with my very talented business partner, Amy Banfield, about I think 4 years ago now, kind of mid-COVID. We've known each other since almost high school. So our kind of common connector whenever we'd see each other out in our 20s was always talking about the industry and kind of having a bit of a bitch about it, which was great because we could kind of connect with each other from like different sides of the industry. So she's kind of interior design based and myself architecture, and she worked for some really big predominant companies. So yeah, that was kind of our catch up during all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden when we kind of got to the age and I was started to think about this and kind of branching off on my own after doing a few side projects, I my wife suggested that maybe I have a chat with Amy. So we caught up for a couple of long walks during the crazy COVID lockdowns. That's all we could do. And that was kind of the genesis of the business. We just kind of started talking about it. And I think what we originally wanted to do was, the idea was just to start a business doing all of the things that the other offices didn't do to like make it nice for us and nice for staff and all that kind of stuff.
Like what are some examples if you can share?
Just like not killing yourself at the office. Like architecture's got it's got a bit of a weird ethos where you just work and
late night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And like I think it's born from like the uni days where a lot of people get into that stuff. But I think there's a better way of doing it. Like there's ways of being able to work efficiently instead of just dumping hours into it. And it's paying people right and making sure that there's like clear pathways forward. There's like a lot of architects now kind of like to move up in their career having to jump and switch between offices, which granted I had to do as well. But I think it's nice if we can give that opportunity to people to stay there and nurture and kind of build a core group around us.
I love that. And that gives us a bit of insight into your like business philosophy.
Yeah.
But what would you say is like your design philosophy, like MYSA as a group?
Look, I think it's really born out of like the context of where we're designing. Yeah. So if you're designing down at a coastal area, like there's a house that's very sympathetic to that. Inner city Melbourne, it's very sympathetic to that. And we take cues from kind of like the materiality of what's going on around us. So if we're in like a row house of little brick dwellings, like might do like an interpretation of that and kind of integrate it into the design. I think the idea being that it feels right within the context of its surrounds, and someone can go and look at that house or piece of architecture or design in 10, 15 years time and just be like, hey, you know what, this actually feels right for this area. Yeah. It's a good fit. Where there's a lot of stuff that you see which just sticks. It's very jarring.
Yeah, jarring.
Do you have an address of one right now or a property that springs to mind that's very jarring?
All of Montalbot Road in Camberwell.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, the plastic castles.
Yeah, like you could be in the countryside in France according to the people who build houses down there. It's crazy. And like I grew up in that area, so I know what was there before, and there were beautiful period homes.
I'm shocked that they all didn't have heritage overlays on them.
Me too, because I deal with heritage stuff a lot, and like some of the properties that I work on that have heritage overlays, I'm like, this is crazy.
Ridiculous.
And then you see people being able to get away with stuff like that. And you just like it doesn't mesh with the character of the neighborhood, and it's a real shame that some of those beautiful homes are going. But
I know.
And then you've got crazy examples of, I mean, there was one on Burnley Street when we were selling that like the house was completely dilapidated. It didn't make sense for the block, and the facade had to be kept. Like it was just or like one house in Melbourne East has been burnt down and there's like a little bit of the facade left, and the facade needs to be reinstated for whoever buys that property. I mean, and then these beautiful homes.
It's funny. And then sometimes like I work on some properties which are like gorgeous, stunning examples of heritage architecture, and there's no overlay on it. And I'm like, I could knock this thing down, but like let's celebrate what's here and kind of build from that. Like that's I think that's kind of like what we want to achieve within our architecture. There's no set formula for us. We really kind of based off where we're working.
I think that's the philosophy. That's your philosophy, though. You know, like that's really strong. That's a really strong position.
It's other things like if there's a beautiful giant tree on the property, like build around it, celebrate it so that you've got rooms that look onto that view, or upstairs can kind of is built around this big, beautiful leafy canopy, like things like that.
Yeah,
like, celebrate what's there.
Celebrate what's there.
Yeah.
I love that.
So in terms of what your favourite thing to work on, is it a blank canvas or is it working within some level of heritage or existing structure?
A little bit of a blank canvas, but I do like the challenge of working with those older homes, and particularly if we've kind of got the freedom to do a little bit more of a contemporary extension to it. How do you create something that's kind of like new and beautiful but also meshes really well with the existing dwelling that's there? And then, I guess that's kind of it. And
What's your take then on what we've seen, what am I saying?
Yeah, the box on the back.
Like we've obviously seen it become quite popular to keep the heritage front 2 rooms to the first or second chimney, and then now you've got a big black box on the back. What do you think about that?
It's pretty uninspired.
Yeah. It's like they didn't even try.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, it's kind of like 10 years ago it was the flavour and everybody was doing it. And there are some good examples of it, but there's also just black boxes. And sometimes that's the only, when you're complying with all the rules and regulations, sometimes that's the only thing. I'm doing a design at the moment actually for someone that you recommended to us, and we're doing a box on the back of theirs, but we're curving the side, so it's like a curved, and then chamfering the form as well, and putting a really beautiful, colourful material on it. And we were kind of restricted in doing that to comply with a lot of the rules and regulations, but it's a beautiful box and it's not black.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, those clients that you're working with there, is that their first renovation?
Yes.
So they might be a good example then of, when you are working with people for the first time, what are some classic sort of misconceptions that they come to you that you really have to work through with them and explain, and something that comes up?
I think the hardest thing for us is often just educating them on the process. There's so much that goes into getting something ready to be built. So, I mean, costing and pricing is one thing, the one hurdle that we've always kind of got to jump over. Yeah. But more so than that, it's everything that goes into the process, all of the design iterations, the material selections. One thing, one anecdote that I always like to say to people is have you ever watched Grand Designs? I'm yes. What happens in every episode? Oh, over budget, over time, they're stressed. I'm it's because they're doing it themselves. You're coming to us as the design professionals to kind of take that load off you and guide you through this.
So that is the role of the architect. It's not just to design, but to project manage and manage budgets.
Yeah. We coordinate everything from basically start to finish. So at the point where we hand it over to the builder, they kind of take over the project management of the build, but we're still coordinating with them throughout that whole thing to execute the design.
And get all the approvals and everything.
Yeah. So at that point, I think most of the approvals are all done, but then there's approvals with the building, methodology and things like that, which we can also be involved in. But yeah, we handle the whole process, and it's we coordinate all of the consultants. So building surveyor, engineers, ESD consultants, all that kind of stuff. So,
and it's with us, how we've got our trusted professionals who we go to, and when we call their phone, they answer on the second ring because, it's a consistent relationship that's going on. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, have that when you talk about structural engineers, etc. I mean, if you're a Joe Blow and you're trying to find a structural engineer, you get onto Google or whatever and give someone a call, the chances of getting a bloody call back from structural engineers is pretty few and far between. Same with the building surveyors.
Yeah.
It's tough out there to get someone to even call you back.
I've got a great one, and I kind of gatekeep him from everybody else.
Yeah, we'll get that number off you later.
I've got someone who's only good to me. Anytime I've ever given out his number, people are I've never heard back from you. I'm I don't know what to tell you.
No, you're absolutely right. We've got a really good team of people around us, and if I ever try and test the waters with someone new, I'm often just let down. Yeah, I just expect a level of service, and it's not. Communication is key, and when that doesn't happen, that's probably the most frustrating.
Yeah, well, because there's already so many blockages that come up through the process, so you don't need other professionals holding you up.
Correct. If I'm depending on you to give me these set of plans to then pass on to someone else, which starts another time frame, and then you delay that by a couple of weeks, that puts the whole thing out, and then. Yeah, not the best.
Not the best. But that, I think, is something that maybe people, when they're thinking about engaging an architect, that's probably not what is at the forefront of their mind of what's going to happen. Yeah. So when you're sitting down with them, do you talk to them about, look, but it's hard because you can tell them, you can sell someone on the positives of using your services, but unless they know the alternative, they don't know really how valuable it is.
Correct. Yeah. That's one of the things that we find the most challenging is like when we give out our fees, like it's almost like a 15, 16 page document that details everything. And then I often say to clients afterwards, so it's like, now that you've got this information, if you want to come back and have a follow-up chat about this, we can kind of talk about it in detail. Where there's some architects out there that will give them one letter. Here's the fee. This is what it is. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like there's no information in that. Like, and granted, architects, like we're not the cheapest option out there, but what we do is like there's a significant amount of work involved in it. And like you've got to be able to justify what you're doing and why we're worth that kind of those fees.
But that's where I think so many people just truly don't understand. They always compare, in my experience, with people who don't know what they think, what they're talking about, but they always will just compare architect fee with draftsman.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but you've got to compare architect fee with the draftsman, with the this, with the that, with all of these components.
Correct. Like, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely a place out there for draftsmen. But you go to a draftsman if you're very like set on a set of plans. Like they often will just kind of take your advice and run with it and won't kind of deviate from that. And then we'll do some of the project management, but not all of it. So a lot of it is then kind of put back on you. And that's when things can kind of, if you need like an efficient process, something that's kind of streamlined, then and you're taking over in an industry that you're not familiar with, it can kind of start to kind of cause some pitfalls.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So people that listen to this podcast will probably be in two camps. They'll be in the camp of haven't bought something yet, but happy to buy something that needs work, needs a renovation, and the people that are sitting in their Victorian and are thinking, oh, I'd love to make this, now 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom.
Yeah.
And I think, so let's go through the two scenarios. If they haven't bought, like where does talking to someone like yourself fit in the two processes? So they haven't purchased. Is it worthwhile them coming and talking to you about a property? I know that we spoke that you've got a new service, so maybe talk through.
Well, I think if someone's looking to buy a property with the intention of doing a renovation, obviously there's all of the checks and balances that you do to make sure that it's right for you. But if you want to do a renovation, and let's say it's in like a Paran or a Richmond and it's on a small block with neighbours on either side and you want to get a second story on it, we say to potential clients, come and have a chat with us. We can sit there and do a bit of a desktop review and then give you some feedback as to how difficult or easy this process is going to be. So
that's great.
We can kind of look at things like overlooking where the shadows are going to go, what neighbours' windows are kind of looking in at your property and how you have to comply with it, and give them a little bit of a risk profile. And I think it'll just give them a bit of assurance moving forward that that's the right property. Yeah.
Yeah, do what they want to. Okay, and then the other camp is the person that's bought the home, they, might have been in it for a couple of years or just purchased. I always say to people, go to the builder first. But what do you think? Go to the builder first or the architect first to get some ideas of what they can do and how much it will cost?
I think
is there
both,
chicken and egg?
Both options are valid, but I'd probably say go to the architect first because once we can kind of come up with a bit of a concept plan, then when you go and have a chat with a builder, you're actually talking about something feasible instead of like pie in the sky. I want to
turn this into a 5-bedroom.
3 rooms out here. Well, what's the square meter rate? Like what's the areas? So, and granted, a builder will be able to give you a bit of an indication, but the more information they put into that process, the better result they get back out. So even just a quick little sketch design from us kind of showing, hey, it's going to be a powder room here, an ensuite here, a bathroom here, 2 extra bedrooms and an office, they can kind of then apply that to their building calculation stuff. And get something a bit more realistic.
And one thing that Sam and I love about your business is you do have this sort of architect and the interior design functions under one roof, in one house. Because I think that that's so valuable because being able to get really specific on the interiors, I think really helps with the architecture side. Or, is that correct?
No, I agree. Like kind of both schools of design kind of inform each other throughout the whole process. And I think it's really beneficial when we're kind of doing initial designs. Amy and I sit down together and kind of come up with ideas, and we're thinking, like, she'll bring up ideas that I might not have been thinking about, and then I might kind of, oh, well, if the architecture or the structure of it does this, then maybe it'll affect this in this way. And it's that kind of process that happens throughout the whole project that I think really kind of value adds to the whole process, yeah.
Yeah. So if someone engages you to obviously start working with you as an architect, does Amy naturally get involved in every project, or is
it? Yeah.
So it's collaborative through the whole process.
I think it's that's the value of Sam and I and the team that we're creating, is that you do have multiple opinions on the one task, and I think it's so valuable for the clients. They're just getting more eyeballs on each scenario. I think it's just really helpful.
Yeah, it's very beneficial, and like what it does is it creates a really cohesive package to then also be able to price really a lot more accurately from an earlier stage, which, as we're all sure, budgets are always probably the biggest conversation, and being able to get a kind of a realistic expectation of what that's going to cost as early as possible is, and it also helps us, because if we need to start pulling things back earlier, it's easier than going to the end and then running backwards. So we kind of control that process going through to make sure we land as close to the mark as possible at the end.
Is there a certain part of a renovation that you sort of see time and time again people really underestimate the cost?
Yeah, landscaping.
Oh, yes.
Gosh, I walk through homes with nice landscaping and I'm like, oh God, we're putting another $100,000 on the purchase price because of this.
And the rest.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
gosh. So we all should get into landscaping, should we?
It's hideously expensive, but it is like it's proper manual labour.
Oh, yeah.
So like you'll know if anybody's ever built like a deck themselves, like they're like, I'll get this done in 3 weekends. 3 months later, they're like, oh, I wish I paid for someone to do this.
Oh, even just jacking up concrete.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Insane.
I always say to people when we're looking at a house that has rear lane access or side access, I'm like, this is worth its weight. You know, you don't have to wheelbarrow concrete through the house or something.
Yeah.
Like builders will literally take that into consideration when they're pricing for a job. Like it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And what do you think is one thing that people just should not cut corners on?
Probably one of the biggest ones is like if you're in a home and you're waiting a little bit of time before you like update and do a full reno, go around and fix your windows. Those single glazed windows are horrific. Like in the winter and the summer, if you change them, your house will feel 1,000 times. Like don't compromise on that kind of stuff. It makes the biggest difference. And because not only when they do that, then they'll seal it up properly.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you've
maybe insulate around it where they can see, shove some insulation down the sides.
And if you're doing a renovation and you're keeping the front half, then those windows will stay forever.
Yeah.
So so
you don't like the windows that just rattle ever so slightly in the wind? You don't like those
you
ones?
feel the nice cool breeze at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, who needs a fan? When
someone's talking out your front door, you can hear every word, you know.
Oh my gosh. That's
Not into those ones then.
No, not the best.
Yeah.
So you've been going for 4 years. Tell us one of your favourite projects you worked on.
So we completed one end of last year, not too far from here actually, in Paran, just near the corner of Greville and Punt. Beautiful old like 1890s Italianate Victorian that had been turned into a backpacking hostel.
With 1,000 rooms.
Literally. So there's enormous rooms in there that they then split into 3 and had like bunk beds in there.
Oh,
they had cabins out the back for like the VIP guests.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they're like, there was a fire escape attached to the back of it. There was like fire services and sprinklers that had been punched through it.
Yeah.
It was a renovator's delight.
Yeah.
But so we got our hands on that with some really great clients, and it was one of those projects where you just make a few simple moves, like opening up a wall or kind of reorientating a few things, getting rid of the commercial bathrooms with shower stalls in them was a priority. Yeah,
wow.
It's crazy. And then like just a few simple moves like that, and then a whole heap of restoration, and the project was incredible.
How big is how big is the property now? So single dwelling now. So is it 2-story?
Yeah, 2-story, double story, massive block. It's I think
delicious.
5 bedrooms.
This is actually this sprung to mind after you spoke about that place. But how does this play into your conversations with clients at all about resale? Because I've just had clients who renovated, and I spoke to the builder and I said, look, I really wouldn't have suggested they did that sort of reno. Like they've converted a 2-bed, 1-bath into a 2-bed, 1-bath, and they've pumped $500,000 into it.
Yeah.
And so from our point of view, that's really their, maybe going to get their money back, if that. And so I, always think and say to clients, talk to us or get your architect or your builder to make sure like the local agent's in on the conversation, because
100%.
You're not spending $1 and making $3 if you do this.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation that I always have with clients, that make sure that if you've put this much into the property and you're thinking about putting this much into a renovation and your idea is to live in it for a minimum of 10 years, what would it look like when you sell it? And that's not advice that I can kind of help with, but that's when I defer to someone like you guys who've got all of that expertise and kind of be able to help steer the conversation.
I want people to really take that away from this podcast, whilst you can work with amazing architects and amazing builders, it really is important to just sense check the design and the floor plan.
Very, very important.
Not too much the sort of tiles and things, but just whether the floor plan makes sense from a resale perspective and the amount that you're going to inject. Obviously, yes, you're probably envisaging yourself live in that home for 10, 15 years and that's why you're doing the reno, but sometimes stuff happens and you don't live in it for that long, as long as you want.
Yeah, you've got to design it for the right target market. And if it's a little bit different to what you want, then you've kind of got to balance up. Like, do we compromise a little bit and just do it for us and it doesn't really matter? Or do we kind of try and make sure that this thing, which is a huge investment for us, will really pay off down the track?
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, I feel like even with things like tile choice, maybe check with someone.
Yeah.
Just because, all those properties that had the bathroom reno in 2016, we see you with your highly patterned black tiles.
Yes.
With all the same sort of Greek style patterns.
Actually, though, that's one of my pet peeves with some architects. They get a bit too woo-woo with the creative and I'm like, my gosh. Yeah. And that's why I often say to speak to the builder first. But I guess if you're working with a sensible architect like yourself, you're hoping that won't happen. But I just see some designs, I'm like, oh, cripes. Who was that? Your creative? Cripes almighty.
CRIPES?
I don't know, but
cripes?
I say it. Do I say it?
I've never heard the word.
My mum says it.
So what would be a design trend then that's currently really hot that you feel like in 10 years' time we're just going to regret?
I think the simple boxy designs, I think they're on the way out. I think people are looking for a little bit more articulation in the designs, a little bit more finesse, kind of like more curated materiality, instead of just that kind of simple flat metal cladding. Like it can look beautiful and it can be executed really well, but I think people are after their architects to kind of just work a little bit more for it. And there's been some fantastic examples of that kind of in the last couple of years and moving forward. And I think that's something which will age beautifully and look really good and just kind of adds to the neighbourhood that it's in and will look fantastic.
Yeah. What's your favourite cladding?
Ooh. That's a really hard question.
Yeah.
I will say there's one that I've actually just found. Kingspan have come out with this. Yeah. It's a new metal cladding, but it's like an inverted fluted.
Ooh, yes.
It's like 300 mil wide.
Panels.
It's gorgeous.
Nice. Inverted fluted.
Yeah. I'm trying to get one on a project.
Oh, is it expensive?
No, it's not expensive. I'm just like finding the right project for it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, we love you and all the work that you do. Every time we see anything from you, we're thrilled. We've got our final question for you.
Okay.
F, marry, kill. And this
Take a
is
deep breath.
it's the isms. It's the isms, and it's just your personal opinion, obviously.
Okay.
F, marry, kill. Brutalism, minimalism, postmodernism.
Wow. Glad we didn't send this question to you beforehand.
Brutalism, marry.
Oh, wow.
Love
Okay,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Where do you live?
Surrey Hills.
Oh, you live in Surrey Hills now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just thinking because there's not really any brutalism there.
No. But it's like I'm talking more about like I love like all of the old architects from like the 60s and 70s that kind of came up and like what they did with these architectural moves compared to what was before was just breathtaking. And like I don't know, there's something so grand about like these big, simple, bold gestures in concrete that like I don't know,
love concrete.
it's really cool.
But I feel when I see some of the designs, I feel like they were just playing.
Yeah, the bad ones, but the good ones.
No,
Like
the good
having fun
ones.
with
They
it,
were
you
just
mean?
like playing. They were having fun. Yeah, they were just like, oh, let me see what I can do here.
Yes.
You know,
because it was almost like a removal from like this kind of arts and crafts, like really decorative kind of
dainty
stuff. And now it created something that was incredible.
and I think maybe back then they didn't have clients saying, actually, I want the study here.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
Whoa,
back
that's
then
not what
it
the
was
clients
literally
sound
like the architect was like, I'm going to design this. I don't care what you say. I'm also going to design your furniture for you.
Yes.
I don't care what you say.
This is
And
the
then you
dining
get some
table
of
you will have.
The best architecture ever.
Yeah, exactly. Wow,
Okay.
shocker, yeah.
And then minimalism.
So marry.
And what was the other one?
Postmodernism, yeah.
Minimalism, probably kill.
Kill.
Yeah. Like I do like it, but I think,
Place.
there's, I don't know, I like a little bit of
Something.
a little bit of texture, a little bit of feeling, a little bit of warmth. And postmodernism, F.
Yeah.
Love it.
Keep them round. Keep
What a
them
win.
going. What a win.
Perfect. Well, Lachlan from MYSA Architecture and Interiors, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And it's been an absolute hoot having you on.
Fantastic.
It's been
Thanks
a
for having
treat.
me.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.